The Song of Songs explores the mystery of love, and in doing so invites us to dwell on the mystery of God. God is love, and He created us to be a people of love. This song celebrates the goodness and joyfulness of marriage, but it also points to something deeper. For God designed marriage to be a sign, which points to our union with Christ. May we be a people who love well. May we be a people who love God and love our neighbor. May our love be a sign that points the world to its Savior.
If you're new here, if this is your first Sunday with us, I want to welcome you. My name's Alex. I'm a pastoral elder here, and we are so glad that you've joined us for worship this morning. It's at this time that we turn our attention to the reading and the studying of God's Word, and today we're going to continue in our study of the Song of Songs. We're going to look at the next two scenes. So if you have been with us the last couple of weeks, you know the Song of Songs can be broken down into a series of scenes, and they're structured in this repeating pattern here. The biblical authors here use what's called a chiasm, which is one of their favorite things to do in Hebrew poetry. They have the scene repetition that is made up of parallel lines. So the very first scene parallels the last scene, and then the second scene parallels the second to last scene. It has this A, B, C, D, C, B, A structure. And one of the reasons why the biblical authors love this pattern is because they often like to put the main point or one of their key themes right in the center. And so today we're actually going to look at the third and fourth sections of the song. So today we are striking right at the heart of the Song of Songs, what the Bible considers to be the greatest song ever made of all time. Today we are striking right at its heart. In these two sections, we're going to look at three particular scenes. We are going to look at a wedding. We're going to look at a dream. So we enter into the first dream sequence of the song. There's two. So we're going to look at a dream. We're going to look at a wedding. And then we are going to look at the lover's delight. Originally, I had dream, wedding, delight, and I gave Eric grief a few weeks ago for having two C's and not a C. And I was like struggling really hard because it's like, I can't tell Eric that if he's going to have two letters, he needs to match all three and then me not do that. And I tried so hard. I could not find a third D word. I asked people, I looked through thesaurus, so I just added lovers so it wasn't a pattern. So I'm sorry, Eric, I failed you. I thought about making this dwedding to match, but that would have been silly. But this is what we're looking at. We're looking at three particular scenes right at the heart of the song. These three scenes will be on full display of what the Song of Songs is all about. So we're going to read these sections, and I want to warn you, it's going to be a bit of a longer reading because we're looking at two full chapters here. But I want to encourage you to really pay attention and really dig in because we are entering into the very heart of what this song is all about. So if you are able, would you please stand? I want to invite Ben and Sherry to lead us in our reading today. And remember, as we read through the song, there are particular characters. So Ben's going to read the part of the groom, Sherry's going to read the part of the bride, and then we as one church, we are going to read the part of the community or the chorus as one unified voice. So this is the Song of Songs, chapters 3 and 4.
On my bed at night after night I sought him, whom my soul loves. I sought him, but did not find him. I must arise now and go around in the city, in the streets and in the public squares. I must seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I did not find him. The watchmen who make the rounds in the city found me, and I said, "Have you seen him whom my soul loves?" Hardly had I left them when I found him whom my soul loves. I held on to him, and I would not let him go until I had brought him into my mother's house and into the room of her who conceived me. Swear to me, you daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, that you will not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. What is this coming up from the wilderness like columns of smoke, perfumed in myrrh and frankincense, with all the scented powders of the merchant?
Behold, it is the traveling couch of Solomon, 60 warriors around it, of the warriors of Israel. All of them are wielders of the sword, expert in war. Each man has his sword at his side, guarding against the terrors of the night. King Solomon has made for himself a sedan chair from the timber of Lebanon. He made its posts of silver, its back of gold, and its seat of purple fabric, with its interior lovingly inlaid by the daughters of Jerusalem. Go out, you daughters of Zion, and look at King Solomon with the crown, with which his mother has crowned him, on the day of his wedding, and on the day of the joy of his heart.
How beautiful you are, my darling. How beautiful you are. Your eyes are like doves behind your veil. Your hair is like a flock of goats that have descended from Mount Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of newly shorn sheep, which have come up from their watering place, all of which bears twins, and not one among them have lost her young. Your lips are like a scarlet thread, and your mouth is beautiful. Your temples are like a slice of pomegranate behind your veil. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built with layers of stone, on which are hung 1,000 shields, all the round shields of the warriors. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle, that graze among the lilies, until the cool of the day when the shadows flee. I will go my way to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. You are altogether beautiful, my darling, and there is no blemish on you. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. You shall come with me from Lebanon. You shall come down from the summit of Amana, from the summit of Senir and Hermon, from the dens of lions, from the mountains of leopards. You have enchanted my heart, my sister, my bride. You have enchanted my heart with a single glance of your eyes, with a single strand of your necklace. How beautiful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much sweeter is your love than wine, and the fragrance of oils, than that of all kinds of balsam oils. Your lips drip honey, my bride. Honey and milk are under your tongue, and the fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon. A locked garden is my sister, my bride, a locked spring, a sealed fountain. Your branches are an orchard of pomegranates, which delicious fruits, henna and nard plants, nard and saffron, spice, reed and cinnamon, with all the trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes, along with all the finest balsam oils. You are a golden spring, a well of fresh water, and flowing streams from Lebanon.
Awake, north wind, and come, wind of the south. Make my garden breathe out fragrance. May its balsam oils flow. May my beloved come into his garden and eat its delicious fruits.
The word of the Lord. You may be seated. So this text that we read this morning, we're looking at the third and fourth sections, the C and the D of the song. And like I said earlier, this is the heart of the song. If you remember when we looked at the first passage of the Song of Songs, we talked about how the point of Hebrew love poetry is to really focus on how God made us to be creatures who desire. And what we see here in these two sections, in these three scenes of the dream, the wedding, and the delight, we're going to see the bride have great desire and seek to fulfill that desire. Let's look at the first scene here. We're going to look at the dream. If you have your Bibles open, I want you to turn to Song of Songs, chapter 3. I'm going to read it here again, just real quick. This is what the bride says. One night as I lay in bed, I yearned for my lover. I yearned for him, but he did not come. So I said to myself, I will get up and roam the city, searching in all its streets and squares. I must search for the one I love. So I searched everywhere, but I did not find him. The watchmen stopped me as they made their rounds, and I asked, have you seen the one I love? Then scarcely had I left them when I found my love. I caught and held him tightly. Then I brought him to my mother's house, into my mother's bed, where I had been conceived. Promise me, O women of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and the does, that you do not awaken love until the time is right. So what's going on here? When we open up into chapter 3, we find the bride alone at her home in bed. If you remember from last week we had this mountain scene where the bride was on one mountain all the way over here, and the groom was on one mountain all the way over here. And if you remember Mr. Gazelle Man, the groom is literally leaping over the mountains to get to his bride, saying, the time is right. But the time is not fully right yet. It's almost right. They're close, but they're not there. And the scene still ends with them being separated. So when we transition into this next scene, we find the bride at home, alone, in bed. It's late at night, and she is madly, madly, madly in love with her groom. And she is obsessed with him, and her mind is racing. And he is the only thing she can think about. If you remember, we spent quite a bit of time focusing on the refrain. This is the chorus of the song. It's a passage that's going to repeat over and over and over again throughout the song. Last week, the bride warned the young daughters of Jerusalem, do not awaken or disturb love until the time is right, until it so pleases. And the bride is speaking from experience, because here, while she lays in bed alone, madly, madly, madly in love with her groom, she knows that in herself, love has awakened, and it has conquered every square inch of her brain. She can't get him out of her head. And so she is filled with longing and filled with desire for her groom. And it's not just desire to be like close to him or be in the same room. No, she wants marital, sexual, intimate love with her groom. Even though they're not married yet, she's filled with this desire. And the Bible proclaims this as a good thing. Sometimes we fall into the trap in warning people, not wanting them to fall into like a sinful desire. We warn them to try to like suppress those desires. And we almost portray this picture that as human beings, we should live like completely desireless until we get married. Like we should just try to find a spouse, but feel no attraction to them whatsoever. Just kind of find like, I don't know, pragmatic, rational reasons why, this person's a good match for me, but I don't feel anything towards them. And then you get married, then all of a sudden it's like, now I'm allowed to have feelings. Like, no. That's not how God made us. And that's not how the song depicts. The song depicts the bride as being full of feelings. And this is the exact reason why she warns the young women. It's because our feelings are good. Our feelings are designed by God. But remember from the first week, our feelings also can be distorted by sin. And when we are caught in this position where we have been captured by love, we can be in a very precarious situation, and we have to be careful. We have to be careful. But alas, we find the bride. She's in bed. She is obsessed with her love. And as she's thinking about her love, she falls asleep. And she begins to dream this dream about searching for her love. She is so obsessed with her love in her dream, she has to go find him. And so what she does is she gets up out of bed, she opens the door, and she starts wandering the city. She starts wandering the streets in the middle of the night because she has to find the one whom she loves. And so imagine like her running through all these streets, running through all these alleys, trying to find her love. And who does she find? Well, first, she doesn't find her love. She turns a corner down an alley and she finds 2 watchmen. She finds 2 guards, 2 soldiers. And this dream that is filled with this longing and desire immediately turns into a dramatic nightmare. Because what was first born out of this desire and longing has now turned into a dark situation that immediately becomes tense and fearful. And you might not see kind of the immediate context here, but I want you to remember in chapter 5, we're going to have a second dream sequence, and we're actually going to encounter these watchmen again, and we're actually going to see why this is a fearful and why this is a nightmare kind of situation. But before we get into that, I just want you to think about, imagine a woman in the middle of the night running through the streets, completely alone. She turns a corner and comes to 2 armed men, right? She has no idea if these are good guys who could help her find her love. She has no idea if these are bad guys who might hurt her. She has no idea. And so this dream that is born out of desire and longing immediately turns into this tense, fearful nightmare. And we get to this line about the watchman. She just kind of sheepishly asks, like, have you seen my love? And there's a moment of tension here. But then her dream kind of quickly shifts, and the guards don't answer at all. They don't give any reply. It's like they fade away. I don't know, dreams are weird, right? Like, have you ever had a dream where things like fade in and fade out, things disappear? It's weird, right? It's like the watchmen disappear, and then she turns another corner. She got no response from them. And who's standing there? Her love. She finds her groom. And so this very dramatic, very emotional fueled dream goes through all these highs and lows of intense longing, desire. I must find him. I must seek him. Becomes very fearful and nightmarish. And then there's this sense of relief and love. And she says, there he is. And what does the bride do? She grabs her love. And she says, I am never letting you go, ever, ever, ever again. She grabs a hold of him. And what does she do? She starts dragging him back home. She says, I long to drag him back to my mother's house. And there's this sense of, like peaceful relief because now she's safe with her love. But remember what sparked this whole dream in the first place. It's very, very much a passionate, intimate desire. She doesn't just want to be safe with her love. She wants to be with her love. But it seems kind of odd that her specific choice to be intimate with her love is not only her mother's house, but her mother's bed, right? Like that seems weird, right? Would you think of your mother's house, your mother's space as, I don't know, the most romantic place you could potentially take your lover? No, it's not. At least not for us, I don't know. It seems odd to us. And in fact, this isn't the only mention in the song of a mother's space being the space for intimacy. It may seem very odd and very strange for us, but we have to remember a couple of things. The first thing we have to remember is the Hebrew people have a very different culture than the culture we live in. The culture we live in is very individualistic. We think of ourselves first and foremost as individuals. But the Hebrew people, their culture is communal based. Before they thought of themselves as an individual, they thought of themselves as part of a community, as part of a family, as part of a town or city, as part of an entire people group or a nation. Their individuality was not the first thing in which they thought of themselves. And so when the bride says, I want to bring you to my mother's house, I want to bring you to my mother's bed, she's thinking within this lens of a family. She says, I want us to be one family together, that we would be joined together in this way. The second thing we have to remember is just what I said earlier. The Song of Songs, if you remember from last week, the Song of Songs cuts through the middle between prudishness and overindulgence in regards to sexuality and our desire. The Song of Songs is very straightforward in declaring love and intimacy as good gifts from God. But it does not treat those things in a wrong or sinful way. And the love that the bride wants to experience with her groom, she wants it to be a pure love and a right love and a good love. right? If you remember the various scenes we've seen the lovers in, we've seen the lovers out in this royal castle all alone. We've seen the lovers out in the pastures with the sheep all alone. We've seen the lovers out in the mountains all alone. Like if the bride simply wanted intimacy, there are multiple moments in which she could have found it where they would have had privacy. But she wants her love to be good, and she wants her love to be right. She wants a love that can be approved of by the entire community. She's actually going to say this again all the way in chapter 8. She says, I want us to have a love in which everyone around us could look at us and they would not think any ill of us whatsoever, but they would know that our love is right and pure. She's saying, I want a love that my mother would approve of, right? Which I think all of us should strive for, a love that our mother would approve of. It's an odd way of saying it, at least when we think of it, but that's what she's communicating. So the bride goes through this entire intense dream sequence filled with longing and desire, tension and fear, and then she finds her love, she finds peace, and her desires, at least in her dream, her fantasies can be fulfilled. But right as she pulls her lover into the bedroom, the dream ends. And she wakes up. And what is the first thing she says upon the completion of this dream? She says the refrain again. She speaks to the young women and she says, promise me, O young women of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and the does, that you do not disturb or awaken love until the time is right. She's speaking from personal experience. She is at this point where she is on the brink of being able to be with her love and be married and experience that intimacy, but she's not fully there yet, and she is tormented by it. Like she can't even sleep in peace because of it. And so she speaks and she says to them, be careful, be patient, because once you have been captured and enchanted by love, there's no going back. The dream scene ends and we enter into our second scene, which is the scene of a wedding. I'll read it here. It starts in Song of Songs 3, starting in verse 6. The bride looks up, the scene shifts, and the bride shouts out, who is this sweeping in from the wilderness like a cloud of smoke? Who is it fragrant with myrrh and frankincense and every kind of spice? And the whole city looks and they see it's Solomon's carriage, surrounded by 60 warriors, the best of Israel's soldiers. They are all skilled swordsmen, experienced warriors. Each wears a sword on his thigh, ready to defend the king against an attack in the night. King Solomon's carriage is built of wood imported from Lebanon. Its posts are silver, its canopy gold. Its cushions are purple. It was decorated with love by the young women of Jerusalem. Come out to see King Solomon, young women of Jerusalem. He wears the crown his mother gave him on his wedding day, his most joyous day ever. Now, this is a very kind of difficult passage to understand. And I feel like I say that every single week with this song, because the song is just, it's a very complex written work in Hebrew. But this passage in particular is difficult because if you remember from the first week, right, a lot of Bibles will call this the Song of Solomon. The very opening line of the song is, this is the Song of Songs, which is of Solomon, which belongs to Solomon. And there's all kinds of confusion and attempts to try to understand Solomon's role in this song. A lot of Christians throughout history have just put Solomon in the place of the groom, that the song is specifically referring to Solomon and his bride. Other Christians throughout all of history have seen Solomon not as the groom, but actually as an antagonist who's working against the groom and the bride. And still other Christians have understood the song and Solomon's role in it to be anywhere in between those two things. Solomon himself by name only gets mentioned 3 places in the song. He gets mentioned at the very beginning, he gets mentioned here in the middle with the wedding, and he gets mentioned at the very end. The mention at the beginning is a neutral mention. There's no positive or negative connotation. We just know that the song belongs to Solomon. The mention at the very end of the song, that's actually in a negative light, where the bride speaks against Solomon and says, I want nothing to do with you and your love. But here in this middle portion, there's a lot of debate about this presentation of Solomon as whether it's a positive or a negative thing. There are some scholars who like to say that this wedding procession is actually a negative depiction of Solomon, that essentially Solomon's riding in and he has all of his wealth and all of his soldiers and all of his resources as if money is something that you can just buy. And Solomon's just flaunting it. Well, remember the bride, she describes her origins in the first chapter. She's of very humble origins, right? She doesn't have a lot of money. So some scholars like to contrast like the wealth of Solomon and his many, many hundreds of wives to the poor, simple, yet pure and beautiful love of the bride and groom. That's one view, but most scholars look at this wedding depiction and they see this as a positive depiction of Solomon. That Solomon's not riding in with his carriage to show off his wealth, rather that Solomon loves his bride so much and is filled with so much love that he will spare no expense to celebrate their intimacy and their union. So whether this scene is a depiction of the actual wedding between the bride and the groom in the song, or whether this wedding is like a parallel wedding that runs in line with the wedding ceremony of the bride and groom, which is very humble, there are 2 points that still stand. There are 2 points that are being made that the Bible is very clearly proclaiming, regardless of whether it's a positive or negative depiction of Solomon. The first is this. It's the depiction of the soldiers. There's this mention of soldiers surrounding this carriage of love. And this is absolutely a positive depiction because Solomon is conveying the sense of great protection and great care for his bride. Right? The love that Solomon here is experiencing is a love that he is going to protect and he is going to fight for. That he will literally have 60 men who will die on behalf of him and his love. And the second is that this love is extravagant. This love is worth celebrating. This love is amazing and it is beautiful. I want to draw your attention to the very end of the Bible. If you know your Bible well, you know the very end of the Bible depicts the New Jerusalem descending from the heavens as a bride. And not just a city, but a city full of people, the church, descending as a bride. And Revelation, John goes on to describe that city in great detail. And it's not just for kicks and giggles, right? It's easy for us to, I think, skip over the portions of the Bible that are describing physical places, but we should never do that, right? The New Jerusalem descending from the heavens as a bride is depicted filled with gold and every possible gemstone and piece of jewelry that you can find. Like, it is the most beautiful and extravagant place, the most beautiful and extravagant people that you could possibly imagine. Like, the streets are paved with gold. There's no real place here that's paved with gold, yet gold is everywhere in this city. It's an extravagant and beautiful, beautiful love. And we have to remember as people, love is amazing and it is special. It is a good gift from God, but it's not just a good gift we experience. Love, marriage is a sign which points to our union with Jesus. And so if a human love is one of the greatest things that we can celebrate and spare no expense for, how much love is our union with our groom, with Jesus, who has saved us and bought us with his blood. Like, that is the life we look forward to, a life that isn't just fixed, but a life of beauty and celebration and wonderful, wonderful extravagance. The wedding scene ends, and again, regardless of as to whether this is the wedding of the bride and groom or a wedding in parallel with the bride and the groom, we come to the third section we're going to look at today, chapter 4. And it's upon this moment that the bride and groom are married, and they're alone. And what do we find here in chapter 4? Is it this race and rush to experience love? Actually, no. In the lover's delight, what we find is we actually find a speech. We find a monologue. If you remember last week, I said the bride is the main character of the song. The bride is the main character. She is the one who does the majority of the speaking. Everything kind of revolves around her. We have all these private, intimate moments with the bride that we don't get with the groom. We never come to a scene where the groom is alone, but we come to multiple scenes where the bride is alone. The bride is at the center of the song. Yet when we come to chapter 4, right smack dab in the middle of the song, right after this wedding celebration, we actually get a speech. We get a monologue by the groom. This is the most extended portion of the groom speaking. And it's a monologue where the groom looks at his bride right in her eyes. And he goes on and on and on and on about how beautiful she is and how amazing she is and how wonderful she is. He uses all of these analogies, and we have to remember Hebrew poetry, when it uses analogies, it's not primarily visual, right? Have you ever seen a depiction of the bride using all of these analogies? It's very odd. Like the woman's eyes become literal doves and her teeth become sheep. It's a very grotesque Frankenstein's monster kind of depiction, right? And the groom isn't thinking, when the groom looks at his bride and says, your eyes are like doves, he does not mean that the eyes literally visibly resemble doves, right? Like she would need to go see a doctor if that were the case. But rather, when he looks in her eyes, he sees eyes of gentleness and purity that remind him of the gentleness and purity of a dove, right? When he looks at her teeth, he imagines this whole pasture of sheep all running together, right? You have to look at kind of the meaning behind the analogies. But let me read this speech to you here again. This is what the groom looks at his bride in the eyes. And he says, you are beautiful, my darling, beautiful beyond words. Your eyes are like doves behind your veil. Your hair falls in waves like a flock of goats winding down the slopes of Gilead. Your teeth are as white as sheep, recently shorn and freshly washed. Your smile is flawless, each tooth matched with its twin. Your lips are like scarlet ribbon. Your mouth is inviting. Your cheeks are like rosy pomegranates behind your veil. Your neck is as beautiful as the Tower of David, jeweled with the shields of 1,000 heroes. Your breasts are like two fawns, twin fawns of a gazelle grazing among the lilies. Before the dawn breezes blow and the night shadows flee, I will hurry to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. You are altogether beautiful, my darling, beautiful in every way. Come with me from Lebanon, my bride. Come with me from Lebanon. Come down from Mount Amana, from the peaks of Senir and Hermon, where the lions have their dens and leopards live among the hills. You have enchanted my heart, my sister, my bride. You hold it hostage with one glance of your eyes, with a single jewel of your necklace. Your love delights me, my treasure, my bride. Your love is sweeter than wine. Your perfume more fragrant than spices. Your lips are as sweet as nectar, my bride. Honey and milk are under your tongue. Your clothes are scented like the cedars of Lebanon. You are like a locked garden, my treasure, my bride, a secluded spring, a hidden fountain. Your thighs shelter a paradise of pomegranates with rare spices, henna with nard and saffron, fragrant calamus and cinnamon, with all the trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes, and every other lovely spice. You are a garden fountain, a well of fresh water streaming down from Lebanon's mountains. Is your imagination racing when you hear this? That's what it should be when we come across this passage in the Bible. Your imagination should just go and wander. Remember, this is a song. It is a piece of art. It's first meant to be felt, then thought about, right? Maybe unlike any other portion in the Bible, right? This speaks to our feelings first. Doesn't mean our thoughts are non-existent. We should think about this, right? We aren't ruled by our emotions, but this should strike at our wonder and our imagination. It's triggering every sense. There are things to see, things to hear, things to taste, things to smell, things to touch. The groom looks at his bride right in the eyes, and he gives this grand speech, this grand monologue of how much he loves her. She is the greatest thing in all of creation. She is the most wonderful person to have ever lived. There is nothing in the entire universe that the groom loves more than his bride. This should make us think of Revelation again, when the church, the bride of Christ, is depicted in chapter 19 and 21 and 22 as pure, spotless, without fault, beautiful and extravagant in every way. The groom is filled with love for the bride. The very love that the bride was seeking and searching for, all of her desire, her restless nights, her love is now being satisfied. Her love is being fulfilled. And it wasn't something that she took. It was something that she sat there and received. She received from her groom all of his love lavished on her. And how does she respond? She responds in verse 16, one of my favorite passages in the entire song, if not the Bible. She says, "Awake, north wind. Arise, winds of the south. Blow on my garden. May its fragrance move all around." She speaks to her groom and she says, "Come into your garden, my love. Taste its finest fruits." And then the intimacy that the bride and groom experience, again, it happens behind closed doors. It's like a tasteful movie where the scene fades to black, right? And they experience love and intimacy in between chapters 4 and 5 here. The bride responds to receiving all of the love of the groom by then giving the groom love. And that's what this marriage relationship is. A love that is built upon seeking love. But when you seek love, you don't take it, you don't force it. Instead, you find someone who gives it to you. You seek and receive. You don't seek and you take. You seek and receive. I love how Bob in his communion meditation led us to think about these words, take and receive. Because it's a word that Jesus himself is thinking of when he's teaching one day on the mountain. He says, seek, ask, knock, search, and you will find. The Bible depicts human beings as being rather capable people. In fact, the Bible depicts human beings as being so capable that in the Tower of Babel, God looks down on the human beings and says, if they're unified together, they will be able to accomplish anything. The question for us as people should never be, will I be able to achieve what I want? Will I be able to find what I'm looking for? The question for us should be, what are we looking for? And how are we finding it? When Adam and Eve sin in the garden, the biblical language is very specific. It says the woman took the fruit. And again, in Genesis chapter 6, when the angels rebel against God and sin against him, it uses that exact verb, to take the women. There's this depiction in the Bible that sin is us seeking something and taking it by force. Whereas the good gifts of God are something that we don't have to take or force. We simply receive. We receive his love. Jesus on the Mount encourages everyone who listens to him. He says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks, receive. And the one who seeks, finds. And to the one who knocks, it will be opened. Jesus is making it very clear that the God of the universe, the God who spoke creation into existence, the God who formed the moon and the sun and the stars, the God who made the heavens and the earth, he is available to you. He is right there. He invites us to seek after him, to knock, and to ask. And Jesus gives us this promise that when we seek him, we will indeed receive his love. Right before Jesus says this specific line, just a little bit earlier at the very end of Matthew chapter 6, Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God. When our hearts are set on God, and not trying to fight for our own status or fight for our own power, fight for our own success, or fight for our own fulfillment of our desires. When our hearts are first and foremost set upon God, we become a people who no longer take, but we become a people who receive. And when we receive, it forms and shapes us to be a people who then give. Because we know what it is like to receive a good gift. We then want to give that to other people. The love that the bride and groom is an intense love, a love filled with seeking and searching, but is a love that is fulfilled in giving and receiving. And God has given us this promise that he has given himself to us. And we will receive him. May we be a people who set our hearts upon him, who seek not the things of this world, who seek not to try to just satisfy our own desires, but to seek God and receive every good gift from him. Life is a whole lot easier when we are just following after God's leading and God's calling and receiving his good gifts, because he's got good gifts. He has good plans for you. It's what he says to us in his word. Lo, I have good plans for you to prosper, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. May we be a people of love, genuine love. Real, true, genuine love is not a love that takes and forces. Real, true, genuine love is a love that receives. And we have a Savior who fully gave of himself. He gave us his body. He gave us his blood. He laid his entire life down for us. So may we live as a people of true, genuine love, who have first received the love of Christ and respond in likeness and share that love with one another. If you would you pray with me?